What's up, everybody? Welcome to a Kind of Funny production. I'm Greg. That's Nick. Nick, you and I both spent our weekend watching half, pretty much, of Daredevil. You didn't watch all of it. I'm up to episode 7. I'm through episode 7. Stayed awake last night. Powered through like a young Greg Miller would.
I hit that wall last night, and I'm like, you know what? I'm actually enjoying this series so much.
Yeah.
I don't feel the need to watch it, fall asleep to half of it, and then not remember what's going on.
So here, real quick before we get going on this, how spoilery do we want to go? Are we going to spoil things that have happened up through episode 7?
I don't think we should necessarily. I think we should be top level. There's gonna be some spoilers on this.
Okay.
It's
Well, because I immediately want to say, like, last night, Christine's
Spoilers.
like come to bed, and 2 episodes before Stick, and then that episode ends with spoilers. Daredevil, Matt Murdock on the ground with his hands behind his head, and the cops coming up, and they cut to credits.
Right,
and I was
and
like,
you're like, damn it,
motherfucker, I gotta watch another one of these.
Yeah, I gotta watch
and then I watched another one. Then I got to Stick, where everybody was like, Stick's the best one of the season, or wait, that's when it all turns around, or it gets even better. How are you enjoying it?
So the first 2 episodes, I was like, this is a little. It's not necessarily jumping out at me, right? It was a lot of setup. Not as much setup in the origin story as I thought, which was good. I was like, I don't really need to see. I mean, we saw the toxic dunk thing. We saw
Toxic Avenger 2.0.
I mean,
Matt
like what?
Murdock.
It's probably one of the lamest superhero origin stories ever.
It's one of the most plausible.
It's fairly plausible, but he goes on later to explain sort of why he sees the way he sees and how he can do it, because he's really super in touch with like all these other. He's like, I don't just have 5 senses. I have all these things that are that
taste
my brain,
copper, see fire,
all that stuff, which is cool. And then they, at a certain point in the series, you do get to kind of see how he sees, and it's really, really cool.
Right.
And they make you wait too, because you're like, how does this guy get around?
See, that's the thing that I found very, very interesting about it. Watching with Christine, who I think had no knowledge of Daredevil, and me only. I'm a DC fan, but only passing knowledge of Daredevil. Right? Like, I knew his origin. I just read Man Without Fear. I was caught up a bit on what was happening, but when I'm in there watching the episodes, it was very interesting, and I don't think when I watch shows, and I don't know how you think. Stop looking at yourself in the camera. The camera looks fine. God forbid you freaking have a hair out of place over there.
All right.
The problem, I don't think, but this show's showing me that this is a show built for Netflix, if that makes sense. House of Cards, I loved, but I didn't get the sense of like this was built for Netflix because it was already an original story. I was there from the ground floor. But Daredevil is built with the premise that you are going to binge watch. You're in this.
So cool.
We're not going to spend the first episode explaining how he sees, showing you what's happening. Because my thought when I'm watching it, I was thinking of, everybody keeps tweeting at me, this is the show to get Colin to watch. Colin would like the superhero show. Da-da-da-da. And as I'm watching, I'm thinking of all the questions Colin's going to ask. And his first things are, how is this guy seeing?
Yeah.
Like, what is happening?
Yeah.
And I don't know if they make it clear enough that, he has these, crazy-ass abilities, or that we're going to get to this. But I don't know if they need to either. See,
they don't. And here's what I like about Netflix, and this is, again, why I like the Netflix model, is I was not too enamored of the show going into the second episode. I'm like, this cast just kind of feels a little off. Some of the acting's not on point where I want it to be. And I don't really know what's going on with the story. It just feels like it's a Monster of the Week style story. But I am really, really wrong right around episode 4 when we start seeing Vincent D'Onofrio's character when he comes in as Wilson Fisk. And he starts... he has this really, really deep character that he plays where you're not even sure if he's necessarily he's a bad guy. But you don't know what his motivations are and if they are actually semi-altruistic.
Yeah.
And he's just sort of doing the bad thing to get the right thing done, to do the greater good.
Right.
And you start to understand that this first season is going to be like House of Cards, one big story arc where it's not a Monster of the Week. It actually is. There's 3 distinct storylines happening.
Right.
You've got the storyline with the girl, and I forgot the actress's name, from True Blood.
Right.
And she's sort of the new character, the secretary character, but she's still fighting her old boss. And all of it has to do with this sort of undercurrent of criminal activity that's controlling the city.
Right.
And it's just different aspects of it. And I think it's really, really cool. And I think it's also it's cool because it's an origin story, but it's an origin story sort of like Batman Begins, where instead that first hour of the story that was so cool, we were like seeing how he gets to do everything. That's the whole first season.
It's all peppered throughout.
Yeah.
Well, there's this scene I was thinking of last night. I'm not sure if you're to it, and it's not spoilers. It's the girl from True Blood talking to the reporter in the car, and they're just sitting there drinking coffee, talking, and 5 minutes in, I was just like, you would never get this in a movie or in a regular TV show because they're worried about losing you. They pop around, they boil it down. Whereas this is them talking, so we get used to the characters and we get comfortable with everybody in this world.
And dude, what a great way to use your actors. And that all of them, man, we really got to brush up on actors' names because they're all phenomenal actors. But the
True Blood Girl,
Jessica. No, not Jessica.
That's what I thought too, but I don't think
her
it
name
is.
was Jessica on the show.
That's what screws it up, right?
And I think her name is. I want to say her name's Deborah something.
You keep going. I'll figure it out. You don't have to get hung up on this.
She is fantastic.
Yeah, she's
the
great.
guy that plays the reporter, the old reporter who's like, I got one left in me.
Yeah.
He's fantastic.
Deborah Ann Wolf.
Deborah Ann Wolf. She's great. The guy that plays Daredevil, who I'm not
Charlie Cox.
It's Charlie Cox.
Yeah.
Who I at first was like, I'm like, I don't know if I'm sold on this guy.
I was
by
a Charlie
about
Cox
episode
fan.
4, I'm like, this dude, because he's got, you know what he has? He has the one thing that you gotta have if you're going to be a badass superhero running around Hell's Kitchen, kicking the shit out of Russians.
Yeah.
The voice.
Yeah. Oh, he's got a great voice.
And when he says this, when he does the swear to me, which he does multiple times,
swear
to me, but you know what I mean? He does that like, who do you work for? It doesn't come off like Bales came off, where you're like, whoa, bro, you're gonna blow your voice box out, so like just tone it back a little.
Yeah.
He's got a natural grime to his voice. Let's not even forget episode, what is it, 2 or 3? I didn't even know she was in the series because I didn't. Rosario Dawson. I try to stay away from the series as much as possible because I was like, I want to go into this fresh. And the sad thing is, and I think a lot of people out there, my only exposure to Daredevil, aside from seeing him on a couple occasional comics here and there, was the Ben Affleck movie where with
Michael Clark Duncan.
Michael Clark Duncan as Kingpin, and I forget.
Jennifer Garner
as Elektra. And not a great film by any stretch of the imagination. So I'm like, oh god, at least the bar is set pretty low. But then Rosario Dawson comes in, who is first of all a phenomenal actress.
Yeah.
And second of all, they have a great chemistry.
They do. Yeah.
Where you're like, I want to watch this relationship develop. She is a flawed character. He is a flawed character.
Yeah.
And that's what I like about the show too, is that you're not mincing any bones about that. He's not Superman.
Yeah.
Right. He is very much more like Batman, where he's willing to break. He's willing to put a guy in a coma if that's what it takes to kind of get the job done. Which is such bullshit.
Like if this always because I don't know if you're there yet with where the Russians giving him shit for not killing, not going all the way half measures, dropping him off and putting him in a coma.
Right.
And he's like, I didn't kill him. It's like, dude, just kill people.
Yeah,
if you're gonna be throwing them off, and that was the other thing.
Let's put it this way: you would have saved her life completely if you just threw that guy like a half a
exactly.
foot to the
Christine
left.
and I were talking about it too when he tossed the guy off, and she's like, "Does he kill?" And I was like, "I don't think." And I'm trying to remember this version of it, and I'm like, "No." And I remember in Man Without Fear the stripper scene, and I was like, "Well, I don't think he does, but I don't know if he cares." And then when he dropped the guy off, and he's like, "Is he alive?" And he stops. Yeah, he is. It's like, you don't even know. You don't even know for a second. You didn't give a shit. What do you fucking care?
But see, I like that though. I like that he's flirting with the idea of
be a killer?
I just put people out of their misery.
Sure.
And do we need another superhero story where he constantly is like, this is the one thing that separates me from the scum of this?
Yeah.
No, dude, the thing that separates you is that you're trying to do something good.
Right.
And the thing that's complicated and fun about watching the story is that in doing something good, you have to do something bad. And that's where I want to go back to Vincent D'Onofrio's character. That is a very well written villain. Yeah. He's a guy that I just want to make. I want more of him.
Right.
Which is like, how many shows can you say that you want more of the villain in?
Right. Yeah.
You know, like I really do. I watch The Shield occasionally. And it's like, I mean, I don't want to spoil The Shield for anyone because the ending of the last season was pretty awesome.
I've never seen The Shield, and I don't care about spoilers.
Some of the characters that are quote unquote villains in it are pretty fascinating, but they're cookie cutter. They're like, hey, you know, gimmicky comic book. Hey, it's
Captain America. No, that was the thing with what they're doing with Wilson Fisk is when they introduced him. I mean, the one scene at the end of that one episode, right after the crazy fucking scene where the guy kills himself on the spike. That blew my fucking mind.
That scene was amazing. And before we get to that, they have another sequence that is one of probably the longest fight scenes on the planet, and it's so beautifully shot.
Yeah,
and it's.
Before we get to that, wasn't even in the ballpark of what I was talking about.
No, I know. I just wanted to make sure I mentioned that because it was such cool.
Sure.
It was
Everybody
such a
talked
cool
about
moment.
it being like the room, the hallway scene. Not from the room.
It was like
from
the really
raid,
long
the raid's hallway scene.
Oh, I was going to actually compare it to True Detective. It was like really long shot scene. It was like that kind of. Do you remember? Did you watch True Detective?
Yeah, I watched True Detective.
Yeah, there's that really beautiful.
Oh,
scene
right, where they cut through the
falls
houses.
and it goes all
this was different though. This was done with an actual cut in there, but they did confirm they filmed it all at once.
Yeah, no, it was cool.
No cut. Anyways, he's like I screamed out. God, I was all by myself. Oh my God, is what I screamed when I see that because it was just like such a.
Damn.
There's better ways to kill yourself. Yeah. Jesus, but I understand.
Bro, there was like a little ledge too. You could have just thrown yourself off.
Fucking pinning on Daredevil, I guess, but fucking Jeez. But anyways, yeah, like the whole thing with Fisk is, and that whole, what a brilliant idea of introducing him through this relationship with this artist lady, because watching him struggle immediately made me go, like, I like him. I like him. And I'm like, I know he's a horrible dude, but right now in this scene of him trying to win over this girl, I totally, like, I'm rooting for him. Yeah,
right. And he's like, he's got this awkward, elegant charm to him.
Yeah, he can't.
It's weird that he can't speak very well, but then when he does, he says these amazing, eloquent.
And it was interesting that that carried over, not just talking to the girl, but also talking to the other crime
the other
families.
Gang families. Yeah. And so he's not the Wilson Fisk from
the Spider-Man
animated series where he's like, I will kill
Spider-Man.
He's got a lot more dimension to him, which is really, really cool. And side note, do you know who that actress is? Remember whatever the movie she was in? She played Laura in Man of Steel. She was Superman's mom.
Oh, no, I didn't
and
know
so
that.
I looked her up. I was like, that makes me like her even more.
Yeah.
Phenomenal actress. They have ridiculous chemistry together.
Yeah.
She was great casting because she is like, she just nails that role.
Right. I'm interested to see what they're gonna. Where's that relationship going? What happens?
Yeah, I mean,
again,
it's cool.
Only through stick.
Me as well, but spoilers. I mean, not spoilers actually, because you see it's the first time they talk. They have this phenomenally complex relationship too, similar to Rosario Dawson's and Daredevil's, where you're stuck. You're like, there's no such thing as just a good person or a bad person. There's just varying degrees of gray in this world, which is really, really cool. And it's very compelling to watch characters kind of struggle with that. And Fisk is one of those characters so far. He might be full of shit. I don't know. When we get to the end of it, spoilers, might be just like a psycho killer. But right now, she realizes he's a bad guy, but she's trying to figure out if he's a bad guy for good reasons,
right,
or just a bad guy.
If he's the alternate version of Daredevil.
Well, he is what Daredevil will eventually turn into, right? And that's what's
not going to kill like.
Well, that's what the parallel they're drawing right now. That's sort of what they're comparing to. It's similar to the other show that was popular this weekend, which was Game of Thrones, where you sort of are now seeing those characters turn into the bad characters that they so desperately hated in the first few seasons.
Yeah,
that's what I'm wondering if if we're going to see here. And let's not forget, I mean, the guys that started this are the guys that are great storytellers. The guys that did Buffy, the guys that did Cabin in the Woods, all that stuff. So Drew Goddard. I mean, the guy knows how to tell a story. And
if you launched his career, no big deal.
If you looked at, I mean, did you look at the executive producers on this thing?
Yeah.
It's like 8 screens of executive producers, including Jeff Loeb and a bunch of other people. That's really cool. It's an impressive show.
It's impressive, and like you, I tried to stay away from spoilers going in. I didn't want to know too much about it. So, this probably sounds stupid knowing how Marvel holds their cinematic universe so high. I wasn't sure if this was in the cinematic universe. And obviously it is. They confirm as soon as you get in there, with the event and all this stuff. And then there's a great joke about an iron suit and a magic hammer.
Yeah.
Okay, just making sure you got that.
Yeah, I got that one.
And what I love about it is, like, this world is so big, so much is happening, and it's plausible that Iron Man and Captain America wouldn't be involved in this. You know what I mean?
Yeah, like that's the other thing I liked is that they set it up that it's post Avengers.
Yeah.
So New York has been destroyed. Everyone's got these insurance claims they're figuring out. Buildings are torn apart. They're able to get an office because of the, what do they call it? The event?
Yeah,
not the event.
It was something like that though.
It's some absurdly like underphrased thing, but yeah, everyone died. They destroyed New York City in the Avengers. So now they're I guess Fisk and the group, and this sort of conglomerate of the syndicate of criminals, are cleaning up the city via like ultra violence. They're trying to take control of it after in the aftermath of this kind of crazy thing, and it's cool because it is sort of like what you would expect of a smaller character like Daredevil, right? He's not Superman. He's not Iron Man.
He's just out to protect Hell's Kitchen. That's it.
That's just his place.
It's the opposite of Batman, who's out to protect Gotham City, but then gets called into the JLA and does
and they're always like, let's get that guy that knows how to use all those gadgets and actually strategize.
This is great that it's happening, because that was always the problem when you watch Captain America, Winter Soldier, right? And for not me, but everybody, I guess. You know what I mean? Like, the mainstream, right, was having this problem of like, well, if S.H.I.E.L.D.'s ready to destroy everything and like they're gonna kill all these millions of people, why wouldn't you just call in your friends? You know what I mean? Like, there's these giant global threats, whereas this is just one guy in a suit out there trying to make the streets a little bit safer. And that's his whole thing too in this conversation. I think you've seen with Rosario Dawson's character, where it's just like, I'm just trying to make my neighborhood a better place. Yeah. That's all he's just like trying to be fucking souped up neighborhood watch.
I'm not going to expand it to Brooklyn.
He doesn't know that he's falling into this quicksand, that it's all this giant thing. And maybe he's starting to put it together right now, obviously, but
and that's what's cool, right? Is that he did start with best intentions, and he's getting dragged down. And he's starting to get like, you're starting to see his like the suit and all that stuff sort of come together. Like, I don't know if you noticed, but in this last episode when he called Vladimir, he's got like armored.
Yeah, I wasn't
hands
sure if he
now
had
and
that
some
the whole
other-
time.
No, I don't think
That's
he
new.
did.
That's new.
I could be wrong, but it looked like he was just wearing like the outfit's getting more and more armored
Right.
as he's getting as he's getting the shit kicked out of him.
Sure. The interesting, this is one of the things that sucks. We'll end here on the things you don't like so far, at least in this half of the season. One of the things I don't like is, again, we stayed away from spoilers, and all I knew is that from an IGN blog roll headline was Charlie Cox says red suit will make an appearance. The Daredevil red suit will make an appearance. I'm like, awesome, because all I've seen him is in this black thing. And Netflix gave me 2 days before they flipped the image to the red suit.
Yeah, I know.
So now I'm just like, well, when's the fucking red suit coming? Now I just want to see him getting that.
I know that was the most annoying thing is I logged on yesterday and he's like standing on the building and then like beautifully lit. I'm gonna give a shout out to just the technical crew of this, because I don't know if you noticed this, but it is lit like a noir comic book.
It looks awesome.
When he's sitting in the police station and there's just darkness behind him, and he's just like, they have these bubbles of light where he's allowed to exist in, and everything else outside of it is like dark.
Yeah,
that is such a cool style. And like they underlight him, and every time you see him in the mask, it's like a little bit of highlight on his face.
I love the way they do so much
cool.
cool lighting stuff when they're talking about eyes and stuff. When they're talking about his eyes, when we're seeing what he sees, or when we need to focus on hearing, everything goes blurry around it. You know what I mean?
It's
these little things. These little things that really work.
It's a really technically well done show.
Yeah.
If you haven't watched it out there, give it a watch. Watch it to like episode 3, I would say.
And watch the whole thing. That's the whole point. Is like they're betting on you binge watching
before you think that you're gonna get into it. Because the first couple episodes, I was
immediately hooked. I like Charlie Cox a lot. I like that character. I like the way he's portraying it. I didn't expect the brutality of it. Like, it's a bloody, bone-breaking, bones popping through the skin show.
Yeah, like you don't just hear it. You see that. There's a couple like.
I like the risks in quotes they take, where they'll just have like a 10-minute conversation in Russian, and I have to read the subtitles and stuff, and they just go with it. Like, I like everything they're doing.
I think for me though, the first couple episodes were, I was like, okay, this is gonna be another one of those shows where there's no story really.
Yeah.
We're just seeing a lot of cool choreography. Phenomenal choreography,
right?
I should mention, and beautiful cinematography to boot. But then right around episode 3, right around when you really are introduced to D'Onofrio's character, you're like, oh, this is a deeper story,
right? This
is something that's I can actually have some meat. I can sink my teeth into and stay on this ride with these guys for, because everything's been done before, so you got to show me something story-wise that I haven't seen before, and this is actually pretty cool. It's pretty compelling, so I'm interested in it.
All right, so
we should do another one of these when we end the series.
Sounds good to me.
All right,
until next time, ladies and gentlemen, let us know in the comments what you think of Daredevil on Netflix, and keep coming back to Kinda Funny, because it's our pleasure to serve you.